Welcome to the Awakening Performance Audio Lab. Today, we're talking about something surprisingly difficult for many high performers to describe: what clarity actually feels like. When people have been operating in pressure, urgency, and mental overload for long enough, stress starts to feel normal. Constant thinking feels normal. Mental exhaustion feels normal. Being busy all the time becomes mistaken for productivity. So when clarity finally appears, you might not even recognize it at first. Clarity isn't perfection or having every answer. It doesn't eliminate pressure or your responsibilities. Clarity feels different. It feels like your mind isn't pulling in 10 different directions at once. You can identify what actually matters. Decisions stop feeling emotionally tangled. You can think without that constant internal noise or questioning, and you stop carrying every problem simultaneously. Clarity creates mental space, and that space changes performance. When you regain clarity, communication becomes cleaner, priorities are more obvious, your decision making speeds up, emotional reactivity starts to decrease, and your confidence increases. Not because the circumstances became any easier, but because your brain is no longer overloaded. One of the biggest misconceptions about clarity is that it comes from having more time. It usually doesn't. It comes from reducing cognitive friction and removing unnecessary decisions. You interrupt reactive patterns and you slow down long enough to think intentionally again. And maybe, most importantly, clarity often feels quieter than people expect. It's not dramatic or euphoric. You just feel grounded and you stop mentally sprinting from one thing to the next. You stop trying to solve everything simultaneously and you start trusting your ability to think again. That's a major shift for many leaders. When you're overloaded, you can stop trusting your own thinking. You might begin second guessing yourself or revisiting decisions repeatedly. You might get caught up in data or information and you seek more certainty before acting. It's not blind confidence, it's regaining clear thinking. And clear thinking changes how you, as a leader, show up, how you set strategy in meetings or conflicts, how you communicate, how you innovate, and how you set the team culture. What might get in the way of your transformation? When you first start operating with more clarity, it might actually feel slower. That's your brain's conditioning to equate urgency with productivity. If you're like me, my brain is used to stimulation. I don't know how just to be. I thrived on reacting, responding, and being in a perpetual state of movement. So when I began to slow down enough to think intentionally, I felt uncomfortable. At first, I felt less busy. That adrenaline rush that I expected was gone. I felt less emotionally activated and questioned, wait a minute, does that mean the passion is gone? And sometimes it felt kind of boring. I had trained my nervous system to associate stress with momentum and high performance. Silence felt unfamiliar. Space was unproductive. That's what it felt like. Calm can feel like something must be wrong. Your mind might try to pull you back into your old habits, checking constantly, overcommitting, jumping into unnecessary urgency, reopening resolved problems, or just filling every quiet moment with activity. Because reactive patterns become familiar, even when they're exhausting. This is where you may be tempted to abandon clarity too early. You might mistake the sense of calm for lack of momentum. Here's the thing to remember about clarity: it's not the absence of progress, it's a removal of unnecessary friction. And over time, intentional thinking almost always outperforms reactive speed. Take a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you felt mentally clear, not distracted, not rushed, not carrying 10 competing priorities. What did that version of you look like? How did you communicate differently? How did you lead differently or decide differently? Now ask yourself, what has been pulling me away from that state? Most people don't need more information. They just need less cognitive noise. Clarity isn't about dimming your high performance and becoming someone different. It's removing enough overload to access your best thinking again. Thanks for listening to the Awakening Performance Audio Lab. If this episode resonated with you, stay tuned for the launch of the free 5-day Clarity Challenge to start identifying the patterns driving overwhelm, reactive thinking, and mental fatigue. This is your time to get back to clarity.